And then I'll turn it over to you, Leslie.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Human Rights Commission meeting for November 20, no, are we, what's today's date? November 1st, 2022. We will take roll. And, before we do that, I would love to welcome our newest member, Commissioner David Letta for District 6. David, we're excited to have you. We are excited to work with you. I'm personally excited to work with you. And thank you so much for coming over and saying hello. But definitely welcome.
Thank
To the commission. I hope that you will love what we're doing here and also be a huge part of it for us, because we do need the Nicole mentioned fresh voices in order for us to do what we do on this commission. So thank you for choosing to be here and welcome.
Thank you very much.
We are going to approve and adopt our minutes for our October 2022 meeting. Did everyone get a chance to take a look at it? I'm going to take that as a yes. Could I have a motion to approve?
Motion to adopt the minutes as presented.
Second.
Those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner Bacon. We are going to move.
I'm gonna abstain.
You're gonna abstain?
Since I wasn't at the
Any
meeting.
abstain? Yeah.
I did that my first meeting too.
Commissioner Miller abstains. As you all know, he is new to the commission, so it makes sense, and we will allow that, of course. We are going to move over to our public comment section. Here, attendees may be provided 1 or 2 minutes of time determined by the number of attendees and the time available determined by the commission. Please observe the time limit stated at the beginning of the public comment period so everyone may have a chance to speak. Do we have anyone from public?
There are no members, Chair. The public visit.
And I did forget to mention, to read our little statement here for our hybrid meeting, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do that now. This meeting is a discussion among commissioners and select presenters. The public is welcome. Items scheduled may be moved or discussed during a different portion of the meeting based on the circumstances or availability of speakers. This meeting will be hybrid. The commission meeting will have a physical location of the city and county building in County Room 335, and members of the public may provide public comment in person. Commissioners and presenters may join or participate either in person or through electronic means. So going back to our agenda items, we do not have any public comments, so we're going to move forward to our gentrification study update. This is going to be with the Thriving in Place team. They will provide this presentation. You have the floor.
Who should I make a co-host for your team? If you have anything to share.
I'll be sharing screen.
You will, okay. David, go ahead and try and let me know if it works.
Angela, do you want to make any opening comments or we'll just start?
Sure, I'll just quickly thank you for allowing us some time on your agenda this evening. The Human Rights Commission has been a critical player in the development of this plan, from reviewing the RFP to going through the policies that we're going to go through this evening. So want to thank you guys for your involvement and for some time on your busy agenda. With that, I'll turn the time over to David.
Great, thanks. Pleasure to be here. Last time, I can't remember the exact date, it was a few months ago, we came and were able to walk through the phase 1 report of what we heard from the community and what we learned through our analysis with you. And we're excited to be here today to share with you our draft action framework. I'm going to give a quick overview of it. I'm not going to go through every piece of detail because your eyes will roll into the back of your heads, but there's a lot of information. I'm going to give you a high-level overview of it. Just a reminder, so this is the city's assessment of displacement and develop an anti-displacement strategy. And we're in the second phase of the work, crafting collaborative solutions. And I'm going to walk through with you, and what we're really hoping with your help is to make sure we're getting the word out in the community about the draft, and encouraging people to give us feedback. So if you weren't at the previous presentation, or if you're not familiar with the work, I'll walk through a little bit the website, but the phase one summary report gives you an overview of what we heard and learned in the first phase of the work. And right now we're in these the first two parts of this diagram here. Draft framework and action plan are up on the website, and we're looking for people to give us feedback so we can refine the plan over the coming couple months. We're going to be presenting to the Planning Commission in a couple weeks, and then also to the City Council in December, not for adoption, but for the draft recommendations and hearing their feedback and direction. And over the course of the next 6 weeks, also be seeking community input via the website. The plan has a lot of details in terms of specific actions. All these fit within what we call guiding principles, which really leads with making sure that we're prioritizing and strengthening tenant protections, and focusing in particular on the most vulnerable, the lowest income folks, who are really one bump in life away from being displaced, being not able to pay their rent, stretched already in terms of affording to be in the community, and any small life event can disrupt their ability to remain in the housing they're in. And we know that once they're out of housing, it's a lot more challenging and expensive to get them back into housing, and it's more likely that we're going to lose them from being a member of the community. So that's our priority. Another key guiding principle is the idea of partnership, and how the city works with other agency partners as well as with impacted communities to make sure we are all rowing in the same direction, that we're clear on shared priorities, who can do what, and focusing on not just housing, but the whole range of things that need to work together to help communities stay in place and thrive. Guiding principle 3 is increasing housing everywhere. So looking at ways in which we can create more housing overall, because one of the takeaways from the first phase of work is there is a shortage of housing at every income level in Salt Lake. That actually the shortage of housing at the higher income level actually impacts lower income housing or cost housing, because those folks then are competing in the market for those units that otherwise might be serving lower income households. So how do we increase the supply of housing overall, given the just incredible ongoing demand for housing? And then focusing in particular on how we create and preserve affordable housing, housing that's affordable to lower income households and to different types of households. And within that, looking at how we counter the historic patterns of segregation. Focus on affordability. I talked a little bit about that with the previous guiding principle, but that is key. And one of the key ideas within this guiding principle is looking at opportunities for affordability in perpetuity. So opportunities to create housing that is under a broad umbrella of community ownership, through a nonprofit that's mission driven, through a community land trust or other models that are out there in terms of making it part of the community's long-term future in terms of affordable housing solutions. And then how do we build relationships that are grounded in trust and honest conversations, difficult conversations, where the different segments that need to come together to make this work a reality are in constant communication with each other and coordination. So this is a city plan. It speaks to city-led action, but it also very much speaks to the role of partners in carrying out an anti-displacement strategy. The downer side of it is the caveats. This isn't going to be easy. It's not going to solve the displacement challenge overnight. There are no easy fixes. There's going to be some difficult decisions. Fortunate that there's a lot of good things that are already underway that we're going to be building upon. We're not starting from scratch, but how we sequence things is important, and we'll speak to that in the plan. we're operating in a context where there's a number of things we might otherwise do that are preempted by the state in terms of state law. So we might be looking at more limited range of action and looking at opportunities where we can change some of those state preemption limits. Finite resources is always an issue. Capacity, we can't do it all at once. There's only so much that can get done. And so that sequencing piece is key. And there's a number of things that we don't control. We don't control how many people are wanting to move to Salt Lake. It's a great place to live. People want to be here. And so we're working in a market context with a lot of things that we don't control in terms of how private land markets work. And then there's that piece of like, it's not just what we do, but how we do it. How do we work together? How do we have respectful, even if they're difficult conversations to figure out the right course of action? That was a lot. I'm going to now, I think, switch from, let me go to this slide. This is just a diagram that shows the components of the action framework. There's what we call the 3 Ps at the center of it. So protecting tenants from displacement, preserving the affordable housing that we have, and then 3, a really important part, is producing more affordable housing. And those are all embedded in those 3 expanding circles that contain those 3 key goals. One is ways to expand funding to support doing that work. 5 is how we partner and collaborate. And then 6 is working at that state level to advocate for tenants and tenant rights. Now I'm going to share screen to show you the website. So thrivinginplaceslc.org is where we are encouraging people to go to read all of this information. If you go here, this is the main landing page you come to. There's a number of pages you haven't been here before where you can read about what we mean by displacement, why this project is being undertaken, who's involved. Under the tab, what we heard and learned is the phase 1 report. You can download that there, as well as scroll down and read a summary of some of the key takeaways and explore all the data that was collected. And there's a lot of really, really rich information from the incredible community input that we had. And then the new information is on the tab that's called Priorities for Action. So if you scroll down here, you'll see that diagram I started with earlier. One of the things that's available through the site that you might find helpful is this summary here. It says download the summary. And if you do that, you'll get a document that looks like this, which has a lot of words on it. But if you want to have it all on one page, easy to look at, this is set up to be printed out on 11:17. But if you get really good eyesight, you can print out on 8.5/11. And that just gives you an at-a-glance overview of all the different components of the action framework. On the website, you can scroll down, there's guiding principles, and there's each of the sections. So protect tenants from being displaced, that number 1 circle there, has 5 different components under it. So priority action 1A is replace the housing loss mitigation ordinance. And there's some bullet points there about what that means. And you can go down and scroll, click on each one of those to read more about each component of the action framework. I'm happy to jump into any of these in more detail. I wasn't planning to go through them in a linear fashion tonight, but encourage you to go and explore it. But if there are specific things you'd like to talk about, I'm happy to do that. And then as folks scroll down and read this, at the bottom, there's the give us your feedback. And there's 4 questions there that we're hoping people will tell us things that stood out as being particularly important in their mind, what didn't make sense or doesn't seem necessary, what's missing. And
Could I interrupt right there? If I'm reading that correctly, this typo, what didn't make sense?
Yeah, no, I saw that as I was preparing tonight.
Okay.
I emailed our web person, so that should hopefully be fixed.
Just making sure. Go ahead.
Yep, thanks. No, I appreciate it. Um,
David, this is David Lito. What's the website where we can look at this and give comments?
Yeah, Thriving in Place, slc.org.
And we can send that through an email to Commissioner Lita.
Thank you.
And we would love your partnership in terms of getting the word out to your networks, folks you know, to encourage people to go here and learn more about it and give us their feedback. This is live just a few days ago, and going to be pushing it out via different city channels to encourage people to look at it. I thought I'd just jump to the last there. I have slides on each one of the actions if you want to go into any depth on any of them. And then just looking ahead, so November, December, the web information will be up. We'll be hoping to get feedback from folks. Caitlin Cahill is a visiting professor at University of Utah. Her and her students are out working to get community feedback on housing SLC, as well as this information. So I know she's out sharing this information as well. And then we have it's November. I should put the date there. The Planning Commission is November 16th. And City Council is mid-December, the exact date. We'll be presenting this information to those two bodies to get direction and feedback. And then the Thriving in Place anti-displacement strategy will be traveling with the Housing SLC, which is the city's new 5-year housing plan, in the first quarter of 2023. So those two plan documents will be adopted together because while they're separate, they interface quite a bit in terms of looking at housing needs and housing actions. So I'm going to stop sharing, but I can pull it back up if there are specific questions, but it's easier for me to see folks if I'm not sharing screen. Anything, Angela or Susan, you want to add? Okay.
Okay, so this is Jason Wessel, Commissioner representing District 1, and with a different hat, tomorrow we have one of the student groups from the U of U is going to be presenting on this topic at the Rose Park Community Council. I suspect the issue that's going to come up at our community council meetings is going to be about geographic equity, because it seems like every time that the city is putting a new program forward, it's getting placed on the west side, either in not so much as my district as much as in our chair's district. So she would like to comment on that more. I'll let Esther go ahead and take it.
So one of the things that came to my mind as I was listening to you present, David, was we are focusing on the exodus, right, of what's happening with gentrification. Is there any thought or any view on the influx? Because what I'm seeing is a lot of, we hear of affordable housing, but then these affordable housings are not necessarily having families in mind. It's more 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms. And it seems like with what's being built on the west side, there's a lot of affordable housing going up without having families in mind, which means that a lot of the families in my neighborhood are gonna have to figure out some place to go. And then those that are coming in may not find a suitable, affordable housing for them to live. So is there any thought or any, just any consideration being given to families as we think of affordable housing? Because everything that's gonna get built will be mostly on the west side. And I would hate to see only single family just single individuals living there. But even those single individuals will end up having babies, 1 or 2, and a 1 bedroom and 2 bedroom may not be, may not be good enough for them. So then what happens? So they now leave, and then we continue that cycle as families continue to exit. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, sure. So a few things. One, in terms of the geographic distribution, the strategy does talk about the desire to see a mix of housing at different price levels in every neighborhood around the city. understanding that how that gets achieved is going to be different by neighborhood and what in terms of what's possible. But, some of the things like the city's ADU policy, the accessory dwelling unit policy is a way to create some rental housing in older, more established neighborhoods that are higher cost, which creates, it's not going to meet everybody's housing needs, but it's going to create some additional rental housing opportunities. And understand specifically, we're focused in particular on renters, because they're the ones that most at risk of displacement. In terms of and then the strategy speaks a lot to the desire to create community-owned housing, so nonprofits and others and those are complicated to make happen, but they're possible, and they're a way to create value for the long-term future. So, and in those situations, and the kinds of partnerships come together, it could be the school district or the city or another public agency that has land, or it could be land that's in the community land trust, works with a nonprofit housing developer, different funding streams come together, and then you're in a position to actually decide what kind of housing you're building there, who you're seeking to serve. So those tend to you just have more say over what is getting built. I think a lot of what you're seeing in the market, I know what a lot of seeing in the market, the private market, which is not affordable housing in terms of deed restricted housing, is a lot of studios and one bedroom rental apartments. That's happening around the country. That's just where the money is flowing right now in private development. So that is something that we're aware of, and that we know that there's a desire to create more diverse types of units in new development. And the city is working in some of their policy initiatives to try and create more diverse housing outcomes. So I know these things are controversial, but like the RMF 30 is an effort to create more what's called missing middle housing, which tends to be larger units, more family oriented townhomes, duplexes, things like that, rather than larger apartment buildings with one bedroom and studio apartments. But I think, as one of the key ideas, in my opinion, that's in there is the idea of a partnership, a West Side partnership, where multiple city departments are working on city initiatives, would be meeting regularly with representatives from the community to look not just at a project by project basis, but more holistically at what's going on in the West Side, what are the investments that are happening, whether it's a transit investment or a new development project that's coming forward, and how are we trying to be as proactive as possible in identifying areas of need. And it might be an area of need that the city doesn't really currently have a funding stream or a program to address, but it gets highlighted so that we can figure out ways to respond to a need. And one of the things that came up through the community process was the loss of a grocery store. I think that's a great example where the city is not really in a place to require that a new development have an operating grocery store, but knowing that that's an issue, to proactively look at where is there an opportunity to potentially partner with someone to create a new grocery store that could serve the community. There are a number of ways in terms of like looking more broadly at need and being able to strategize that are vetted in different aspects of the strategy.
Esther, I can speak to that a little bit as well. I know you've been working with the mayor and the city council and various conversations that you've been having on, the West Side Community Council. And I'll say I just earlier this afternoon was in a meeting where we were talking about one of the pieces that we have in this proposal for the amendments to the housing loss mitigation ordinance is looking at zoning incentives. So when we upzone a piece of property that isn't congruent with the master plan, so they're asking for an upzone and a master plan amendment, what can we ask developers to do? And there's a lot of preemption that exists there from state code, but we were having a discussion about the need for family housing in Salt Lake, and that's a priority of the mayor, the city council, and the RDA board. And so we were talking about, could we, potentially have an incentive that, if you get an upzone, that a certain number of the units within the development would be, larger units for families. I'll also say at the state level, we've been having a lot of conversations about how to create more family housing, because we know that this is a huge need within all of our communities throughout the state. And so there's a big push by the speaker and the president and the governor to create more affordable family housing throughout the state, both in rental and home ownership opportunities. And so we know that that need exists. And then the last thing I'll say is that, we have over $20 million that we're going to be putting into the community. Some has gone out already. Some more will be going out throughout the remainder of the year and into early next year to incentivize affordable family housing. And so we know that this is a need in our community. And so we're working on figuring out different ways that we can that we can get policy solutions and funding solutions to get more of that family housing on the west side and other areas of the city as well.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any comments, questions?
Yes. My only comment to all this is it seems that to make it work, we've got to figure out the financial incentives to either encourage developers to build the kind of housing that's needed so that it's profitable for them to do so, because if it's not profitable, it probably won't happen, or have the government step in and build the housing where it is in a nonprofit type situation. So one or the other, it seems to me that unless the financial side can be figured out, it's going to be hard for the program to succeed. I just want to be blunt. And so it's either going to be government funded, it seems to me, government housing in a sense, where there isn't a profit incentive, or there's got to be a way to incentivize private developers so that they can make a profit by having the government step in and subsidize it through them, by providing the money that they otherwise would have made had they built a style of housing that they can turn over and make money from. One or the other, it seems to me, has to happen. Now, that's just from a fairly rudimentary and 30,000 foot view, but I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, and I'll just quickly respond. It's going to be both. It's going to have to be both.
This is Everett Bacon. I also just want you to also remember that we have done such a great job in Salt Lake City, and Mayor Mendenhall has worked very hard on making sure that there's more accessible transportation options through public transit. And we need to make sure that we have units that are just friendly to the disabled population in our city, that are accessible, because we know that people with disabilities are also getting priced out of these apartments because of on low income or fixed income and things like that as well.
Bill, just quickly, one of the ideas in the first bucket related to tenants is creating a one-stop shop, both a resource page on the city website as well as potentially a hotline for people to access all of the tenant-related resources to support affordable living. So we had some great conversations with folks, sort of not just go and be able to find out what are there related to potentially rental assistance and things like that, but reduced fare transit passes or assistance with utility bills. There's a number of programs that exist, but you would have to spend a lot of time going around trying to find where all those things are. So just being able to create a one-stop shop where you could go and access those, including services and things that are available for folks with disabilities, and just having a stronger partnership with folks in the community so that they know where those resources are and who to contact.
Thank you very much, David, Angela, and your name went away. Susan.
Hi.
Susan Lockhart, how can I forget? Well, thank you all for that presentation and keep up the good work. I've had the pleasure of seeing this process from the beginning. So I'm excited to see what you come up with, and I am definitely grateful for all the work that you're all doing with the community, like getting out there, getting feedback, and actually having boots on the ground to, to pick up what, many miss. And we, in our community council, we had the pleasure of having your representative from the U present to us last week, so that was great, thank you.
Great.
All
Thanks for
right,
having me.
Thanks.
thank you.
Thank you so much. If you guys get a chance to review the website and you have any comments, feel free to send them to myself, Suze, David, all three of us, one of us. We would love your feedback, and again, really appreciate your time and allowing us some coveted time on your agenda over the past year. So thank you so much. Have a great evening.
You too.
Thank you.
So we are gonna move to our next item on our agenda, and that is our Community Renewable Energy Program presentation. You'll have the floor. It's good to see your face. They know you work for a moment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And let me ask, Michelle, do I need to do anything special to be able to display the slides?
I'm not sure.
I'm assuming you come into the Zoom room, right?
He's using his HDMI, but I think I will just pull it up that you have. It might be, or
Presenting this
can you
as
just pull it up that he sent? It might be easier to do that.
I sent it to the Human Rights Commission email address, and then your.
Organization.
Yeah, but I can't remember the name.
It's literally David Driscoll. and
It's
somebody
Christopher
else.
Thomas.
Is he a private consultant?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
He's a private consultant.
consultant, yeah.
What
What
is
is city hired? on
He was
this?
city hired, yes.
Okay.
There were several consulting firms that put in the bid, and his
Do you need
company.
to, just look at your screen real quick?
Okay, I just needed to know who he was.
It was last year.
Maybe Evis
That's
was
right, Evis,
from the U. It was a weird hybrid thing.
Yeah.
So Angela's.
We'll just tell you not to go to the next
No.
slide.
Okay,
No, she's not.
thank you very much.
Susan is with the city and Driscoll's private contractor.
And then Angela, I believe, is from the U.
No, Angela is a policy director in communities and neighborhood.
Who's
Oh,
the
So
okay.
she's the policy
Are you
director.
looking for the slides? Joe?
Yeah, they're from the U.
So it's, oh, there we go. Thank you so much.
And then she.
No, there is somebody else, Alex.
Sorry, we're kibitzing, we're interrupting your time.
Oh, yeah.
No, that's okay.
Apologize.
We were just figuring out the technical aspects, so thank you for providing a little bit of extra time. So my name is Christopher Thomas. I work for the Salt Lake City Department of Sustainability. And I work on climate and energy programs to serve Salt Lake City. Thanks so much for the opportunity to present on your agenda tonight. Next slide, please. And thank you for your help. Okay, here's what I hope to accomplish with you all tonight. One is I just want to provide an update on what the Community Renewable Energy Program is and our anticipated timeline. Second, I want to present and ask for feedback on a couple of specific items related to addressing energy affordability, or what the state law calls the Plan for Low-Income Assistance, and then answer any questions that you all might have. Next slide, please. Okay, great. So what is the goal of the Community Renewable Energy Program? Well, really, it's to deploy large-scale renewable energy to clean up our electricity supply, which for several decades now has been prioritizing coal, which is really the dirtiest type of energy that you can have, both in terms of carbon emissions and other types of pollutants. Technically, the goal of the program is that every year we want to match the amount of electricity used with renewable energy delivered to our grid for participating customers. And the goal year to achieve this is 2030. This is referred to as a net 100% renewable electricity goal. So it's not matching like every minute by minute. with renewable energy, but over the course of a year, total amount of electricity used should be matched by total amount of renewable energy delivered to our grid. And this is the single largest strategy for reducing carbon pollution associated with Salt Lake City's electricity consumption. So this is a big solution to a big problem, which is climate change. Next slide, please. Salt Lake City is not alone in designing and trying to create this program. There are currently 18 participating communities. They're listed here from north to south. If you look at all of the electricity all of these 18 communities consume every year, it's about 25% of all of Rocky Mountain Power's electricity that they sell to Utah customers. So we're not the majority of the electricity consumption, but we're a significant portion of the amount of electricity consumed from Rocky Mountain Power every year. Next slide, please.
Can I interrupt you for a second? What makes up the rest of the 75%? Principally.
Oh, that would just be all the other communities.
So
listed at the
industry,
top.
big industry, agriculture, I'm just trying to figure out.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You know, I have not looked at that breakdown, like who's not participating and what are they comprised of. I did have a breakdown for the participating communities. You can see about, well, it's about 6 million megawatt hours total, of which about 2 is residential, 2 million megawatt hours. Commercial is about 3 million megawatt hours, industrial is about 1. So it's kind of a 2, 3, 1.
And that's for all the participating cities.
All the participating communities, yep, all 18. But I haven't looked at the reverse, which is if you look at all the communities that are not participating, what is their breakdown?
Yeah, because of the communities you listed, it looks like those are the major population centers in the state. So I'm wondering
We're missing a
where
few-
the other 75% is being used, unless it's rural, you know, agriculture, running, you know, center pivot irrigation systems or whatever. You know, I'm just curious.
We're missing a few larger communities, so like West Valley City, West Jordan, and several others. So that I'm gonna guess that's where most of the other resides. But yeah, great question. So to help design this new program, we've created something called the Community Renewable Energy Agency. And so this agency has a board. Each community that's participating can appoint 2 board members, a primary and an alternate. I'm the alternate for Salt Lake City. Councilmember Dugan is the primary. He's also the chair of the agency. And then we've created 3 separate working committees that kind of aim to do the work of the agency and then bring recommendations back to the board for decisions. Next slide, please. We envision that our 100% goal will be met from 2 sources. One is the standard offer electricity supplied by Rocky Mountain Power that we already pay for. That's represented by these blue bars. So we're already going to be paying for that. And we would want to be able to count it toward our net renewable 100% electricity goal. The green bars is basically filling the gap. Because unfortunately, Rocky Mountain Power is not going to get to 100% renewable by 2030. That's the date by which climate scientists say, hey, we've got to make a significant cut to our carbon pollution if we want to try to get on track to stave off the worst effects of climate change. So to fill the gap, that's where the Community Renewable Energy Program would come in and deploy additional large-scale renewable energy like solar, wind, geothermal, etc. Next slide, please. And so basically, when the program's approved, the agency would look to acquire new large-scale renewable energy sources. We would plug them into the grid that we already use every day as Rocky Mountain Power customers. And then those homes and businesses who participate will source their electricity from those sources and pay, importantly, required to pay for it. So basically, the state legislature enabled this program to be created in 2019. They said, yeah, interested communities can create this, but they also have to pay for it. So if there's any additional expense related with this program, those customers who want to participate must pay for it. Next slide, please. So here's our anticipated timeline. We need to do a regulatory filing. We're hoping to do that sometime between December of this year and March of next year. Then the Utah Public Service Commission, they're the state body that has to approve all changes to these types of public utility bills, would decide, are they going to approve the program that we've submitted? We anticipate that being sometime between like March and June of next year. Then Salt Lake City and all the other 17 will decide, hey, are we going to make the final step to actually participate in this program? If they want to do that, they need to finalize it. They need to adopt an ordinance, basically saying, yeah, we as a community want to participate. After that time, then Rocky Mountain Power customers in our city and in all the other communities will begin receiving 2 opt-out notices over roughly 2 months. So we're anticipating that to be the end of next year, beginning of 2024. And those opt-out notices will basically say, here's this program, here's what it's anticipated to cost. If you don't want to participate in the program, here's how you opt out. And by law, it's an opt-out program. The program right now, as we see things, and again, we're still in the design process, so this is not finalized, but we do not expect this program to cost more than $7 per month for the average customer, and possibly a lot less. It just depends on some of the final negotiations that we're holding with Rocky Mountain Power. Now, if somebody does not opt out during those 2 opt-out notices and they don't exit the program within the first 3 months after the program starts, there may be a termination fee. What we've talked about at the agency so far is a modest termination fee, something on the order of $30 to exit the program if they don't opt out or cancel within that first kind of 5-month time frame. So we're trying to do something that will keep participation stable, but won't be such a huge financial burden that people will be scared, to be in the program in the first place. And as part of our energy affordability plan, I'll bring these concepts up again. So we try to address those with some energy affordability ideas.
So Chris, before you move on, if someone under your scheme opts out, where do they get their power in a way that's different from the person who opts in or doesn't opt in?
Yes.
You have 2 kind of different grids that are going to measure whether their power is coming from renewable or not?
Same grid, great question. So same grid, but those who are in the program will basically be matching their annual electricity consumption with renewables. Those who are not in the program will not be. They'll be on what's considered standard offer service. So this is basically trying to create a very modest choice in what typically is just our monopoly utility. They decide where our power comes from. And this community renewable energy program is basically saying, hey, for those who want to, we're going to give you an option to bring cleaner power onto the grid.
For more money. So if I'm socially conscious and I want a cleaner environment, I have to pay for it. Whereas
Correct.
if I don't care, I still get my power, I can opt out.
Correct. Yep, exactly.
And to go back to a couple of slides ago, if I go back, refer back to a couple of slides ago, these sources of sustainable energy don't exist yet. It's something that if you get the participation from the municipalities, they'll then seek it out and build it, or?
Yes, so basically we would either participate in Rocky Mountain Power's request for proposals that they do like every 2 years, or we would host our own request for proposals. We would then receive proposals in, we'd evaluate them for cost competitiveness. We may look at where they're located because some of our communities would like to support new energy sources being developed within our state as opposed to in other states that are part of our grid. And so then we would make a decision, on which proposal we would want to move forward with. Yeah, and we would look to build those resources up sequentially so that when we get to the year 2030, which is the goal year, then we would meet that net 100% electricity target. Okay, good luck. Thanks.
What happens to those that currently have, solar on their home?
Yes, so
How do they fit into this plan?
So they, with one exception, those that have solar on the roof can either decide to participate or not participate. The only ones who are not allowed to participate by state law are those that the very earliest solar adopters. They were on a special schedule called 135 that gives them a 1-to-1 offset. Every kilowatt hour of renewables they produce, they get full retail compensation for what they would have spent on 1 kilowatt hour from the grid. And basically they're left all alone. So they can't participate, nothing can happen with their bills. Do I need to speed up?
No, I was just saying that the people in the beginning got the best deal.
They did.
They're also,
Somebody got that deal.
they're also the ones that can afford to get solar panels.
Yeah.
No, that's right.
Price of the house.
Yeah.
Because the cost of solar panels has come down over time and will likely go down in the future. So they're not getting a totally raw deal because the cost of installation was less for later adopters, which includes me.
So that's because people who have solar panels who are in the beginning stages, whatever the solar power they get goes straight back to Rocky Mountain Power, and they keep that in the bank. They don't have like a generator that they can use later on.
Unless you're a battery.
Oh,
Yeah.
definitely.
The batteries are expensive,
Yeah.
like $3,000.
Very
Yeah.
expensive.
So, but I don't want to, beat on a dead horse, but my concern is that we're talking about a goal of 7 years from now, basically. And if a lot of these sources of energy don't exist yet, I can't imagine something like hydroelectric or a wind farm being up and running in less than 7 years. So it's got to be it's got to be finding existing sources of sustainable energy and buying into them. I don't see Rocky Mountain Power or any other entity getting something up and off the ground from scratch.
I see your question now. So actually, one of the benefits of a lot of these sources of power is you actually can supply chain constraints notwithstanding. Most of these you can build fairly quickly. So I'll give you an example. Rocky Mountain Power has opened a request for proposals that, according to their timeline, they need to receive those proposals by February. As a requirement of their RFP that they're running, any bids that they receive must be able to reach commercial operation no later than January of 2027, and potentially before. So they're kind of, implicit in that is assuming, hey, you could build a wind farm in a couple of years. You can build a huge solar farm within a couple of years. So I think, and we've seen some of those large wind and solar farms be built. In fact, there was just a news story the other day in Tribune. It was announced Utah's largest solar farm and battery farm is going to be built. And that was an agreement between Rocky Mountain Power and a company called R Power.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that one will need to be online by 2026.
Mm-hmm.
But the way this program works, it sounds like once people don't opt out, essentially their monthly power bill is providing the upfront capital cost to build the renewable energy sources so that you can then go to a contractor, solar provider, and say, we have this source of revenue coming in from all these customers that will pay you to build this project.
Yep.
That's how, so you're really not paying for renewable energy, you're paying the capital cost of building renewable energy when you don't have to opt out.
Yes, yes.
Now, let me ask another question. Let's assume I don't opt out and I sell my home. Then does the next owner of that property get a separate opportunity to opt out?
Yes.
Oh, so this is going to be ongoing. As homes are sold, every new owner then gets a chance to opt in or opt out, or to not opt out.
Yes, but with one caveat, I would say, so say somebody is in a participating community and they've opted in, and then they move to another community that's participating, their opt-in decision will likely travel with them.
I see.
If you are in a participating community, then you move to a community that's not participating, or you go out of state, our idea is that there would be no termination fee in that case. It would be waived, because you're basically moving away. You're no longer a customer.
Right. But what about the new owner of that home?
The new owner, if they are brand new to the area, yes, they'll be given an opportunity. Do you want to opt out?
Okay.
Yeah, great question. Next slide, please. So as part of the Community Renewable Energy Program, we, Salt Lake City by law, are required to develop something that the state law calls the Plan for Low-Income Assistance. We also think of it as our plan for energy affordability. And so to meet this requirement, the agency, the Community Renewable Energy Agency, formed by these 18 communities, created a low-income plan committee to help support this, meeting this requirement. And so basically, as part of that, the low-income plan committee did research, engaged with stakeholders. Would you please go to the next slide? I'm going to try to hurry up a little bit because I know I must be going over on time.
5 minutes.
Okay. So we've engaged these different collaborators to date in helping determine what we would want to include in a low-income plan or a plan for energy affordability. Obviously, Consumer Services, Division of Public Utilities, Rocky Mountain Power, and we've also talked to a lot of the low-income assistance agencies throughout the state, Utah Community Action, Futures Through Training, et cetera. Next slide, please. And so what the Low-Income Plan Committee arrived at was 4 different potential strategies that we might adopt program-wide. So these would not be optional from one community to the next. These would apply to all communities who want to participate. And let me go through those briefly, and we'd love your feedback on those. Happy to have you look at these slides offline if you want to consider it more. But here are the 4. The first one is an automatic opt-out provision for customers who are already on a low-income assistance program or who are behind in their bill payments. Number 2, a termination fee waiver for customers who are already participating in an assistance program, a bill assistance program. Number 3, an enhanced monthly bill credit, so that for lower income customers who want to participate in the program, they could receive an extra bill credit every month designed to offset any additional costs of being in the renewable energy program. And number 4, we have asked Rocky Mountain Power, this is dependent upon their billing system, but we've asked them to consider building in an online donation function. Because they've got a donation function on the paper bills, but a lot of times people now pay by electronically. There's no option there to do a donation. So we've asked them to consider that. None of these have been adopted yet. The board of the agency plans to hear recommendations at our November board meeting, then vote at a December board meeting. So if there is feedback that you want to provide, that would need to go to me and then ultimately to Councilmember Dan Dugan to help influence his vote that he makes on these recommended strategies. We talked about the automatic opt-out, but basically the idea is those that are already enrolled in an assistance schedule, which is called Schedule 3, or those who are 60 days or more behind on their electricity payments right before the program launches would be automatically opted out. So instead of them receiving an opt-out notice, they would receive an opt-in notice that says, hey, if you would like to join this program, here's how you would join it. So that's one idea that we might adopt for the program. The next one, again, is a termination fee waiver. So say there's a $30 termination fee if somebody doesn't opt out within this first 5 months. But the termination fee waiver, if someone's enrolled in the Schedule 3 assistance schedule already, the termination fee will be waived. No termination fee to exit. Enhanced monthly bill credit. Again, there's already a monthly bill credit that some customers receive if they're enrolled in Schedule 3. That's about $14 per month. This one would create an extra bill credit. So those that are on Schedule 3 and they want to be in the program, they could receive a monthly bill credit subsidized by the non-low-income customers who are participating in the program. And it would be designed to, on average, offset the cost of being in the program. And then again, the last one is the online donation function, which we talked about. So those are the programmatic strategies. Would love to hear any feedback you might have on those. Oh, sorry, I'm skipping through, but I'm not asking you in advance.
Oh, that's why I was
I'm so
wondering
sorry.
too. I was like, I didn't.
The whole time I was like, I need visuals.
No, I wasn't sure. I was like, I didn't want to
I'm so
reveal the
sorry.
next slide. So
I'm
let me
sorry.
go
All
quick.
right, so if you want feedback, I think 1 and 2 are presuming failure from the start for the low income people. 3 is a good idea, but that's where you have to come up with what offsets the cost of 3. 4, we need more information on how effective the donation program has been in the past with the paper versus the online. I mean, does Rocky Mountain Power collect enough money to be able to offset the amount that would be spent to subsidize the low income people?
And what's the definition? Are we going by the federal guidelines for low income or poverty line? And then what about renters?
So yeah, great questions. So unfortunately, we're somewhat constrained into eligibility. So there's an existing set of criteria that's determined by the Utah State of Workforce Services and then implemented through Rocky Mountain Power bills. So we could have, we could suggest a different type of eligibility criteria, which we would have preferred. However, in meeting with state regulators and the utility, it was like, well, this is going to cost a lot more if you require a whole other administrative function. We don't know if the commission is going to approve it. So we thought we would try to do what we could within the framework that kind of already exists to try to make sure we could get something in place for our low-income plan that was significant, that was substantial. Oh, and then for renters, what we've tried to do is include that in our outreach strategy so that we can hopefully connect with organizations who support renters and tenants, just to get the word out, basically to create enhanced communication.
So all of these programs you discussed essentially amount to a subsidy for
Correct.
people who are low income. Other than existing ratepayers in the system, is there any other funding source for that subsidy?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean,
So essentially, existing ratepayers are paying more to participate in the program in order to subsidize those who can't afford to participate.
correct.
So my question is your $7 a month projection assuming a certain number of low-income people will not opt out? In other words, or are you just,
Great question.
are you guessing at what whether it's $7 a month? I'm trying to figure this out.
Yeah, so all this there's layers of complexity, right? So the $7 comes from a provision of the agreement that everybody signed to join the agency. And that basically says if we are going to acquire a resource that would cause bills to increase for residential customers by that $7 amount or more, it would require supermajority votes. So supermajority vote of all the participating 18 communities, a supermajority vote weighted by electricity consumption to do. And we think that is unlikely. We think it's unlikely that we'll have a supermajority that would vote to acquire a resource if it pushed bills up by more than that percentage. So that's where that comes from. And so that $7 would need to include everything. We need to include, low-income subsidy, payments for new resources to be brought online, administrative costs, everything will need to fit under that $7. Otherwise, we're gonna have to do a supermajority vote, which likely would not pass.
So my brain is just trying to keep up with what you're talking about. But the one reoccurring thing that keeps coming up is the rates, right? We are aware that rates are going up. And that's why a lot of people are choosing solar, because there's a bit more consistency in one's rate with solar panels. So now with this $7 that you mentioned, is that also accounting for the fact that rates may go up, or what are rates gonna be like?
It's a good point. We don't know. We don't know what rates will be, you know, in 2027 or 2030. But what we can say is that given our agreement and the governance agreement, that's the $7. You know, that's the limit. I think if rates went up, so historically they've gone up by about 2% per year, if you factor in all costs. So if it went up 2% per year, that $7 maximum might inch up a little bit, but I don't think it would be significantly different than $7. So you're looking in a, you know, $7, $8 range if rates go up over time.
So if I understand this, one of the reasons why we got solar panel besides wanting to save Earth was to save money. So it doesn't sound like opting into this necessarily saves you money the same way. You're just paying your electricity, but you're feeling better about what you're doing.
Yeah, it's basically creating another avenue toward renewable energy and making a major impact on our carbon emissions. Because not necessarily everybody could do solar. And even today, you know, with the way the program's structured, you may not save immediately if you went solar on your roof today, just given where rates are, given the reimbursement scheme, et cetera. So we're trying to create another avenue that leverages huge buying power to try to get a lot of renewable energy at a really affordable cost. And so I think if you look at it from those terms, this should be a much easier and less expensive program, a lot lower upfront costs for most people. Those who can afford to do solar or in a house that can do solar or in a position, we think that's great. We're not saying don't do that, but we're saying let's create this other option that will have a huge community-wide impact. But yes, it may well cost more. That's because by state law, we're kind of required, we're required to pay for everything that the utility has built on our behalf, and anything else, any new power plants that we want to bring online to serve our needs.
So are these companies essentially getting a loan with the residents as collateral to build this infrastructure?
Something like that, but
I'm not even trying to be funny, I'm really trying to understand.
I think they're getting a loan per se.
I mean, yeah, like
Essentially what-
funding.
Well, they're basically getting a guaranteed payment source.
Mhm.
If the city says, well, we've got, pick a number, 500,000 customers paying $7 a month toward this program, we can guarantee you so much money to build the project that we then will draw the power from.
And where does that funding come from? Is it from a general obligation bond? Is it from the, you know, where do you anticipate the city putting that in the budget to make that happen?
So it will be paid for through Rocky Mountain Power bills.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess my question, that's for the company, but if this organization is getting guarantee from the city, right? I mean, like, where in the city's budget would that come from? Does the city have like a separate budget for renewable energy? Because you've got.
Yeah, great question. So this gets into another.
And part of that is because you obviously need money to build.
Yep.
Right? Even though you're getting paid through Rocky Mountain Power bills.
Yep.
But you need the initial guaranteed money.
Yep.
To build.
You know, and so if you think about just like all the other energy resources, you know, that serve our grid, it works in a very similar fashion. right? Where it's either the utility itself who either takes investor money and some loaned money and builds it, and then they get paid back over time through bills, or there's a third-party developer. They again have investor capital that they'll contribute to it, and then they'll look for banks, to provide financing, and then they get paid back over time through what's called a power purchase agreement. Now, in terms of the guarantee, that gets into another very complicated topic that we're hashing out with Rocky Mountain Power. So you're very astute to point that out. So it's called the financial backstop. So that basically says, well, if everybody opted out, if everybody left the program suddenly, how do you guarantee payment of the contract of this really long-term resource? So for that, we're exploring several different options, but we've said to Rocky Mountain Power, we are not okay with and will not offer a city bond or debt mechanism to be the financial backstop. So it's going to need to be, a forgivable loan from the Department of Energy. They've got huge authority to do loan guarantees. It could come from, with the Inflation Reduction Act, there were all of these funding sources created to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. We think this is a huge opportunity to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. We may request funding to fund a guarantee pool that basically provides that financial backstop. So that's how we're looking at dealing with it.
All right, so I know we're running out of time, but just to throw another wrinkle into the whole scenario. So we've got the state of Utah buy-in already, it sounds like. However, we've also seen the legislature yank the rug out from underneath sustainable projects in the past. So if we do get to the 11th hour, or it looks like this is going to go forward, what's the buy-in from the legislature that they're not going to do like they did with solar panels or do like they did with wind farms in central Utah? There's plenty of southern Utah legislators who call themselves ranchers who think that windmills kill birds or something.
Yep. And to be fair, some of them do kill birds, not nearly as many as cats. Like cats are the biggest source of killing birds, sadly.
But my point being, is
Yes.
the state on board, or is the state letting this get to a certain point before they yank the rug out again?
It's always possible, and I hesitate to try to guess what the state legislature is going to do. All I can say is there were pretty significant majorities in both the House and the Senate who passed the legislation back in 2019. And then Councilmember Dugan presented to a committee of the legislature this past summer. And so at that time, we didn't hear any aggressive, like, oh, yeah, you're doing all this work to create this fancy program, but we're gonna just yank the rug out from underneath. We didn't hear that. Now, that doesn't mean they won't do it, but we don't have an indication yet.
When it's all talk, it doesn't affect them in any way. When it comes to a bottom line where it might be taking money out of the extractive industries, that's when they'll have the closed caucus meeting and decide that they have to hold on technicality.
I guess bottom line is, as you're doing this, you should have that in the back of your mind. And just not necessarily plan for it, but just be aware that there have been other situations where certain renewable energy type things came on the table and were ended. But I'm always curious in terms of like, where's the money coming from? Because it all sounds lucrative, we all want to buy in, but at the end of the day, that money is going to come from somewhere. And $7 per resident is not going to build a wind farm. But it's, you need resources to get started and get paid back. So
Point taken.
there's the other curiosity is that $30 opt-out fee. There's you said there was a certain time frame for about 5 months that they could opt out without being charged that fee, or they will be charged that fee. Which one was it?
They will not be charged any termination fee if they either opt out during 2 months or cancel within the first 3 months after the program starts.
So anything after that, they will be charged that fee.
Yes.
And just like the $7, the possibility that fee might go up.
No,
But it will always, things
yes.
change.
There's a possibility it could go up. I think the feeling amongst the program design committee is we want it to be a modest fee that's approachable and that people could handle. And I think it would be very politically bad if people got in the program assuming a $30 termination fee and then we jacked it up. And the thing is, like, at the end of the day, people can always opt out. And so we need to be very responsive and cost sensitive, that it's a program that people want to participate in.
So,
Okay.
you're gonna have to have a very robust public engagement with that, because, we have seen things like the Sugar House streetcar or, closing of streets where there are a dozen public, meetings, and you still have people saying, this is the first I've ever heard of this, when we didn't see the 3 mailings and a dozen meetings.
Yeah.
Great.
So,
Yeah, and we're looking to actually engage a communications firm to help with our local Salt Lake City communications plan.
and those are things that don't cost people money. When you're talking about adding $7 onto their bill every month and a potential $30 opt-out fee, that's gonna really piss people off.
Well, hopefully it'll be less than $7.
But-
But yeah, we're trying to give like an upper max, right, to, just so people have full information.
Well, I'll give you my 2 cents. From a human rights perspective, it seems to me that anything the city can do to support a reduction in air pollution and dependency on coal actually supports human rights. And from this commission's perspective, we ought to be supportive of whatever those programs are, if we can launch them efficiently.
That's our goal.
Yeah, I think you do. I think we're all on the same page. I mean, all of us are.
There's
support
also
the
the part of being mindful of people on fixed income.
That's what my concern is.
So I know we shoot out $7, $30, but property taxes just went up.
Yeah.
And yes, what is there, 8% for folks living on Social Security that's gone up, but it's still not a significant amount. So as much as we want to support, we also want to be mindful of our communities and what they're dealing with.
And I fully agree with you, and that's why I think the program for assistance for those who can't afford to participate in the program is a critical component of the whole program, and actually it gets funded by people who can't afford it.
It needs to be really advertised. That part really needs to be advertised. 'Cause, yeah, there are a lot of people who don't have time to go to these meetings, who don't have time to look at this information, don't have the digital accessibility to access this information. So we make sure that's very well covered for those people.
And I think it needs to be upfront defined who is in that category and who isn't. Because I think people would be surprised who isn't in that category, even though they assume that they would be low income. I think that part needs to be very transparent.
I don't want to come across as being critical either. I completely
That's
agree with
great.
what David was saying. I'm just trying to do some troubleshooting here and see some potential, pitfalls, problems down the road, issues that are going to come up because just we've seen them come up in the past. And
Totally,
when
very
you're
insightful.
automatically opting people in, you're taking a huge public relations nightmare hit for the city there.
Got it.
And
So-
it's still early in the legislative session. I mean, it hasn't started yet to even know if there's one bill that talks about Utah Clean Energy Fund that's been at least not even numbered yet by Joel Briscoe. So who knows what's gonna be coming down the pike.
I love Joel, his ability to get things out of committees.
I know.
That's gonna be an uphill battle, for sure. I know we're running out of time, but I did just want to say, we have some outreach strategies where we're trying to identify community organizations that serve households that, may be receiving housing assistance, are on a fixed income, renters, live in single-family detached houses, because those tend to have higher energy bills, or are recently resettled refugees. So we used a state database. If you'd go to the next slide, please. Called the Utah 211 directory, which kind of is a big directory for organizations. So we use that and identified these organizations that we want to make sure to include in our outreach plan, to basically ask, hey, if we develop a poster, will you hang that poster for us? If you have an email list, we'll give you an email. And if you're willing to, would you distribute it amongst any listserv that you have? So if there are other organizations that you'd recommend that we include on our outreach list, please let us know. We'd be happy to look at
What
those.
about the existing community councils?
Community councils. I would say one of our subcommittees' goal for next year is going to be coming up with a pretty comprehensive list specific to the city. Our refugees and new Americans, isn't that what Commissioner Dubia is trying to push, is to come up with a list of these kinds of identified organizations and things that are specific to the city.
And
We say
then
that a third time exactly the same way with different words.
our DEI team as well has a list. I think some of them are overlapping, but there's additional. So we can send that to you as well.
That would be fantastic.
Like I don't see a lot of the Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander groups that are represented here. That's in our list.
That's exactly the kind of feedback we're looking for.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, I don't want to take any more of your time. I know it's taken a lot. Thank you so much, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Really appreciate your engagement on this issue.
Thank you for presenting. We are gonna move over to our end of year report. The discussion will be led by our equity manager.
And that will
You
be,
have the floor, more.
and I'm gonna give the time to Michelle, who will be sharing that.
Okay,
Oh, for the record, Michelle is gonna be taking over for Moana
yes.
come December.
This is my
So,
last meeting.
I know.
I mean,
We
have
don't want to
December.
discuss that part yet. But we definitely want to thank Moana for all that she's done for us over the year. And Michelle, welcome as always. And we'll continue to get this going and working together.
Thank you.
We'll just point out that we have had her micro change the language on this about a dozen times. So this thing has been tweaked and tweaked and tweaked, and I'm sure she's tired of looking at it.
I think the best way to go about it is going through each of the subcommittees, give you all a second, because this is what we're voting on, right?
Yeah, so then this, when we vote for whether to support this and push it forward to the mayor and city council. So that will be presented in December or January when we get on to their agenda.
Can I interject for just one moment?
Yeah.
How are you?
Hi.
Are you an audience? or-
Yes, I'm just kind of concerned. I
Well-
like where you guys are moving.
So, he came last month. didn't
I
he?
did.
Yes.
Okay.
Came in a couple months late, so we didn't get the introduction.
Yeah, and full honesty, I'm considering applying for the commission. and
You
it's
should.
coordination that's
What district do you live in?
Four.
Yes.
That's the perfect district.
We highly recommend you apply to the commission.
Well, thank you. What is your name?
Will. Terry.
Will Terry?
Yes.
Very good. Thank you so much for being our audience
Yes,
today.
thank you for.
And I'm sorry for interrupting. I just felt like someone else here. We should-
Yeah, acknowledge them. All right, so we'll, and then let's just, we can quickly go over, I know we've sent this and everyone's seen it,
Yes.
probably with, except for Commissioner Lida, so we'll look over it and then you all can vote to support. or not support.
Yes.
Did we fill in language yet for the refugees and new Americans? I thought that was this place.
That's where we'll probably need to, so for gentrification, you can see what I added here, which seems pretty accurate based on what they needed from the commission. They wanted all of us to provide recommendations to their website, and then for refugees and new Americans.
So Commissioner Letta, this is sort of the end of year report of all the things that we've done and all the things that we plan on doing. And we have our celebration next month, but the goal of this is it gets submitted to the mayor. That way she knows what has happened and what's gonna be happening in the future. So this is what that is in just a condensed form. And then one of the things that we did this year was to create subcommittees. That way, individuals that had a certain passion for a certain topic could provide their feedback and time to address those, because it was kind of hard as a whole commission to tackle just one thing at a time. So that way we could, divide and conquer. So this is a condensed version. Don't let it be like just crazy, thing of it, but it's the condensed version to, basically let everyone, because this also gets presented online, and also, let the world, the city know what we've done, what we're going to be focusing on. So as they present this and read through it, if there are things that come to mind, just take note of it, and then you can just email them. And then that way you can still be a part of that process.
Is this an annual thing? that you-
Yes.
Going to be, this is the first time.
This is the
Yes.
We're setting
So
new
we have
precedents
time.
here.
We have a few things to brag about this year.
Yes, but then either way, next year, it's just having an organized way to present something. I think it's very beneficial because it helps you focus on what you'll be doing, and it helps us know what to like bring forth, when we come.
So I can find this online.
Not yet.
No, we have to vote on it.
6-point font at a distance.
Yeah, I mean, maybe
We
just.
sent it in the email,
Yeah.
but it wasn't the final draft. I will.
Oh, you sent it in the email.
Yeah, and you should have it's been sent a couple of times, if you got the email this afternoon, I think it's.
Oh, I didn't get, well, if I got one this afternoon, I was tied up with other stuff, so I didn't see it. I was only looking at the email that sent the agenda and the minutes.
I think Moana just sent it before this meeting, actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
okay, well,
We have been reviewing it for some time,
Yeah.
so it's not like a brand new thing. It's
well,
just-
I'm not gonna,
Oh,
second guess
yeah.
it. I mean, I'm new to the committee. What you've done, I had nothing to do with it. Polls next year, or maybe
I
I
promise
can
it's good.
contribute toward them, but.
Well, a lot of our revisions were essentially changing it from kind of a reactionary language to being proactive language.
That's good.
Because
I would
a lot of
support
it is
that.
like, we will react, and, instead we're trying to change it to being more like we're not waiting for the city to come up with a human rights issue to bring to us. We're
Right.
trying to be more proactive, activism rather than reactionary.
That's good.
Sorry for interruption, go ahead.
No, it's okay. I think the main important things that we're agreeing as a commission to basically do or continue are for the subcommittee, CEDAW, we will have to build the framework for the intersectional gender equity study. That's with the chief equity officer, and that's by the ordinance, so that's, yes, so that would be our main priority. These are like our priorities for next year, which Commissioner Vida, you will be part of as well. And you can pick a subcommittee at a later time, but just so you have an understanding, we're kind of voting on like the in progress or ongoing or what we need to do for the next year. Developing a standing subcommittee to address the commission's ongoing responsibilities. And then for homelessness, participating in the Salt Lake Valley Commission's End Homelessness, and researching best practices for improving homelessness. For gentrification, we will be working closely with the Thriving in Place Study consultant and providing those recommendations to them in the next year. And then for refugees and new Americans, understanding the data collection and processes within the city programs that serve refugees and new Americans. So having a standardized data collection procedure, like how they identify if someone is a refugee and or new American. And that kind of ties into also racial and ethnic categories that we would like to see more standardized across the city. And just a little bit more here. Can you all see this? Okay.
I spoke too soon, sorry, because I also have it on my phone.
Next time, I'm gonna open up my laptop. I'm gonna be able to see it right here.
So this kind of just goes more into depth. So with CEDAW, in order to kind of start that framework, we'll have internal data collection and community listening sessions, or those focus groups that will all be part of that intersectional gender equity analysis. Homelessness, again, the participation in the Salt Lake Valley Commissions and homelessness, requesting to take part in. Take in.
Take out of.
Oh, there we go. In the process when policy is being taken to legislature and drafting letters of support for policy and programming.
Does that, just as a matter of interruption, Michelle, does that include participating in this tiny homes village? in some way.
I think that's a whole other thing.
So
It can.
we don't want to limit our options, so we tried to keep some of these goals more broad, aspirational and broad, but let's say that there's been some friction over the tiny homes issue. Not this commission so much as in just the philosophy behind the placement of it.
And just one very, very small point. Talking about people as homeless is kind of stigmatizing.
People experiencing
People
homelessness,
experiencing homelessness is a way to make it less
or the
stigmatizing.
unhoused, the
Or something
unsheltered.
like that, you know, but, you know, continually using the term homeless is stigmatizing, I think. And it, you know, it could be you and me, you know, under certain circumstances.
So the city now has a language access group, right? And that's one of the things that they're sort of looking at is those, how we use certain words. And, but for the purpose of this, the homelessness is just kind of to wrap the whole thing, not necessarily looking at certain individuals and, you know, addressing them. But,
Yeah, I don't think this
I
is
think-
the policy and programs.
Yeah,
the
more so for
homelessness.
the policy.
Yeah.
But we
Because-
should take note not to use that within the.
Yeah. Because when we, there are two things that I see. I see homelessness and then I see housing issues. And I think if we use unsheltered, then it kind of gets all mixed up with housing, because housing is completely different need than.
It is and it isn't.
It is and it isn't, right? Because this group also needs housing, but housing is also a broader term to, you know, discuss like affordability and increase and all that stuff. So we wanted to really focus on homelessness because that has been a huge topic in the last several years in SLC.
Well, it is.
Everywhere.
It's not addressed appropriately, it becomes
Yeah,
a problem for a city. Look at Portland.
Yeah, so
It's
can we double,
really become a problem in Portland. It's causing a lot of people to move out of the city.
can we double check and make sure that we don't refer to the people as homeless at any point in this? And I think that will alleviate your concern and that will make sure that we're only talking about
I don't think
city
that we do.
policy.
Yeah, I
I'm
don't
pretty
think
sure
we
we
do.
don't, but I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, we'll make sure not to.
'Cause I-
We've referred to the policy, homelessness policy and programming that's within the city, but we will double check for sure.
Sure.
So we're not calling out individuals.
Yeah, because we let even one slip by, that's on us.
Yeah, that's very true. And then-
Okay, so the thriving in place study, gentrification. I think this is basically what was covered today and where most of your concerns were, which is what I took note of. So if there's a more accurate phrase you want to use, please let me know.
We're still in the public outreach phase. Like, I don't know what my community council is how they're gonna react to it, because gentrification is huge in Rose Park, but we're nowhere near as far along as like Fair Park or West Point, where things are getting subdivided into duplexes and triplexes, and it's becoming multiple family dwellings. Yeah, so anyway, this is me saying, I don't know where my community stands right now on thriving in place yet, because we haven't had the opportunity to present it to them yet.
So when you say mayor's goals 2022, to finalize the thriving in place, it doesn't look like they're gonna be finalized. No, you're in the right place. It's the B gentrification. It doesn't look like they're gonna be finalized at all. It sounded like March 2023
Yeah,
was,
so we can,
So
that was a,
that was the goal. for
that was
this.
the goal for the
Okay.
mayor's, but
It's
it's,
just, okay, good.
we can use that as a foot. Yeah, we can
Right.
put that in the
Okay.
footnote.
mayor's goals 2022.
We like to include this, just to show what the mayor's priority was. The RUP has something similar, so I'll just highlight it to move it later.
We can make it as a footnote or in the appendices.
Okay,
But I'll highlight it so I know I need to move that somewhere.
sounds good.
Yeah, because
But
the geographic inequity is the big point that
Right, it
we were
is.
bringing up. About, I think there was in that town hall that took place last month, pointed out there was something like 120 something units in the west side and like 3 on the east side.
Oh, it's 295 on the west side, and 5 on the east.
Oh, she has their.
The numbers have shifted then.
The numbers are definitely, they were up. Okay.
Yeah.
They've added 2 more to the east side.
No, they always.
I like how it's 2 West Siders and 2 East Siders.
I love it.
Yes.
We still love you, we still love you.
Tell us, was your house affordable?
No, very, very far. Especially at the interest rate. Even our house was sold not so affordable. So that's to our buyers. Their first home, God bless them. God bless them. Ours didn't bless them.
Right.
Okay, for refugees and new Americans, these are the priorities. Creating a procedure for consistency on gathering ethnic/racial demographic data, aligning with the census guidelines, getting monthly updates from that language access coordinator, and facilitating community listening sessions as well.
So with the federal census guidelines, we
Yes.
use the proposed ones that were not adopted in 2016, right?
Do you have that link? Because it needs to go in here too. I
I was gonna look that up.
Okay.
I saw that book is not in storage.
Okay.
I'll find it, because the link is in that book.
Okay,
Because
that will go in the appendix, but it just reminded me, I'll text you to
Yes,
remind you.
please
that you
text me
can-
reminders,
yes.
I will forget, because
Yes.
the current ones.
It wasn't, yeah, we showed it to you and you were like, that was not.
But the
the one.
proposed ones were fantastic, and I keep running into it's just a mess. Yes.
Okay, I'll text you.
Did you make sure that you got Commissioner Benori and Commissioner Dubia's feedback on this point?
And that was Dubia, Commissioner Dubia's was the racial ethnic demographic data. She was really adamant about that, especially for like how the city always asks with, oh, please identify with multiracial and biracial identities, that they were not capturing
Yeah.
that data at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the proposed census guidelines do capture more of that,
Yeah.
a lot more. Because then you can indicate multiple different ethnicities, so who are most ethnic,
For,
they can be as many as they need to.
for David's sake, 2 of our commissioners who are not here are the ones who are leading up this subcommittee. So I just want to make sure that their feedback got included in this draft.
Yeah, and that one does, I know, I think I've spoken with Luna about that, one, Commissioner Lori, and we agreed that those guidelines were far better influences than current.
I have found the report now. Did come in today.
We've just made them change this so many times that.
I know. We're almost there though. So the Children's Advocacy Group or priority will be to establish a Children's Advocacy Subcommittee, as well as exploring the idea of a new at-large commissioner for minor, which will define this under 18.
So I'm curious, what do you envision the committee to be advocating for?
This is
Commission.
the chair.
Is this education, is it
It's-
wellness, is it safety? I'm just thinking.
So all of it, we just want anything and everything that is related to children. I think sometimes we just kind of separate them because we assume that, hey, they're not part of this conversation. And I really want to make sure that I don't even know if children would be the right word to use. Youth, something to just encompass the
Perfect.
I believe,
18 and under.
I believe in the UN charter, they do specifically use the word children. So
Okay, so we could,
We can go along the same lines as the charter.
okay, that's fine.
So children.
You could do children/youth, because older kiddos, like around 12 and on the.
Yeah, we can.
18, they don't.
They're gonna say they're not referred to child, so.
You could say youth advocacy subcommittee, unless you don't. think
I
that
do like
includes
youth.
that.
I feel like it's,
Let's leave both for now.
let's just leave both. As
Yeah,
long as you feel
but-
comfortable voting on this.
Yeah.
So I went to, I don't remember what it was, like a luncheon or something, but it was Voices of Utah Children. They presented, And I really like what they're doing and just being an advocacy for children. And my son is in a study for, it's called the ABCD study. And it's adolescent brain cognitive development. And it tracks him from 9 to 18. And they, you know, it's the entire nation that's going through this, and this one is University of Utah. And the idea is just to track so many different things, like the effects of social media, like, you know, drugs, alcohol, those things, and how it affects the youth. And that's just one, you know, like a few components of the study. But I really believe that like children just get left behind a lot. And it's kind of silly to plan for the future when we're not addressing the needs of the children now, because that is our future. We're the ones that are making decisions about us when we're older. So if we're not guiding and providing them with the, you know, the tools and foundation to be strong advocates for us, I feel like we're doing such a disservice for our future as well. So that's one of the reasons why I really thought in all that we do, that we also focus on the children, their human rights, their needs, their, you know, just being the voice for them.
It's good. There's plenty of international law, treaties, and statutes that are youth, child specific, so it fits in our wheelhouse well. And then I recommended that we explore the idea of adding another at-large commissioner that would be a minor if it works with city ordinance, city statute, because specifically, I believe, remember the young woman from West High who was advocating for allowing for teenagers to vote for the
16 and 17-year-olds.
Oh, Dati, who was also a
National
commissioner.
was part of that.
Yeah, so it was really impressive with getting youth engaged at the teen years before they're able to participate on boards and commissions. Why can't they if they're already active?
Well, it does, ordinances, the code does allow, so for when because of the Racial Equity and Policing Commission too, the starting age is 16. So if there is, if you all want to amend that, we would just have to go through all.
There are some amazing youth out there.
Those out there, they're just doing such amazing work
So
right now.
anyway, the surprise, this was kind of a thing that we brainstormed just a couple of weeks ago when we were adding this stuff.
It was.
This is the first time we revealed it to you guys, so
I like it.
sorry about that.
No, it's a good point, especially that the REP does
The
have.
teachers
that
that are used to
space.
technology.
Yeah.
Yeah, we already have that, our kiddo, I should stop saying kiddo, we already have our youth commissioner.
So lastly is the 5-year priority. So 2023, that was all of 2023. So be very busy. 2024, we will provide recommendations from the intersectional gender equity analysis and follow up with the recommendations after creating it in the next year, as well as developing a 2-tier needs approach for refugee and new American recommendations. And that will be in the appendix as well, and I will fix this. And then basically for the rest of the years, all subcommittees will just reevaluate the previous year's goals, formulate revisions, and focus on implementing new goals. Thank you, Commissioner Wessel, for that word. Or it would be super tiny and super small and everything is just there. But in 2027, one thing I did want to point out is we do have to re-implement the intersectional gender equity analysis per the ordinance every 5 years. So that's something that's a standing issue.
That's why we'll have a standing committee.
Yes. Which will work great. And then we have our appendix, but we're voting on the priorities and
Yeah,
recommendations.
just those.
Okay,
Those are all in.
yes,
We're just adding whatever we talked about, we're making sure that we're, noting whatever sites we're using as well as, previous notes that we've taken.
Let's go back down to the child youth. Since we are, instead of explore the idea of a new at-large commissioner, it's
recommend.
appoint a new at-large commissioner.
Well, we don't appoint, right?
Well,
So
I mean,
recommend.
Yeah.
We don't establish
Would be establishing the position.
a new at-large commissioner.
Commissioner position. That would
established.
be, we'd have to amend the code, but it
Yes.
didn't take much to do that with the last one, so.
That's awesome.
It was pretty.
If we have support from the mayor and city council, then it should. easily go through.
Perfect.
Right.
So now do we,
Yep.
move?
Yeah.
Okay, would someone like to,
I will move to finalize the.
And adopt.
report. Adopt it.
I'll second.
thank you, Commissioner Lynn. All in favor? Aye. Commissioner Bacon? Thank you. The ordinance, anyone opposed? Perfect. Or the, what would you call this?
Thank you.
End of the year annual report passes. Thank you very much. Teamwork.
Okay, now we'll be moving on to reviewing and voting on the nominees, which you all have a paper copy, and I'm assuming. How do we get,
Okay, so you all get to, the chair did not say.
Oh,
"Do you
yes.
Want to move on?
Yes.
Sorry, would you like the chair? I'm sorry, we're like,
For the
no,
sake-
let's get us out of here.
yes,
For the sake of order, we're gonna go ahead and move on to our next item on our agenda, which is the Human Rights Day celebration. And I'll pass this back over to our
Yeah.
team.
Yes.
Go ahead.
All right, so I think that the thing that's at the top of the agenda for this is to review and vote on the nominees. This is we're setting a new precedence for the rest of nominations. In the previous years, the Human Rights Commission chose the winners or the awardees. For a couple of years in between, it was sent to the mayor. Our current mayor she doesn't have a preference on reviewing these, and if it's going to be a Human Rights Day celebration, I'm also advocating that the commission choose the finalists, just because it's this group that will be hosting. But I also wanted to allow you all how you would want to have them participate in it. We have, is it 7?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
9.
So who gives the award? Is it the commission or the city?
It's the commission, but the mayor is also up there and supports with funding of it, but it has historically just been the Human Rights Commission awards.
I guess the
Do you
reason
mean
I
the
asked.
funding part?
Well, no, I mean, if there is an award, it comes from a source.
Yes.
So either the commission is making the award or the city, and if it's the city making the award, the city should at least approve the commission's recommendation, I would think. You
Yes.
see what I'm saying?
It's the commission.
Yeah.
The Human Rights Commission gives it because the previous administration, they fired the predecessor to Milana, and so we gave the award to her.
There was those political nuance from 6 years ago. And so historically, previous to that, 5 years ago, was that 5 years ago? The commission always gave the award. And they did also have, which we could change again, part of it, to your point, is they used to have people, community groups and NGOs, they would help fund it as well. And then when it shifted about 5 years ago, then the mayor's office provided the funding for the event. So
The event is
the event itself is funded by the city. However, the commission is the one who has historically chosen.
So
it.
basically, the city has delegated to the commission
Yes,
the authority to select the awardees.
yes,
Okay, as long as I'm clear about that, yeah.
okay,
And I will have that in writing somewhere, right? We'll-
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll develop that standard.
yeah.
We were just talking about it like last week.
Instead of just talking about it, we'll put it in
Right.
writing, and then it will be institutionalized and we
Yes.
pass it on to the next group.
No, it's gone back and forth though, because we did have one mayor's administration
right?
wants to be hands off, and then the next one wants to be the one who hands out the awards and greets
Right.
everybody, and then the next.
We're going to include them too, in the ceremony, but it would be great if you will
Yeah, that's our plan is moving forward. I was pointing out that things have been different, administration to administration. So.
So with that said, and this is just for everyone, that we always choose one, not from each category, which is one group, one individual that is older than 18, and then we have one that is an emerging leader who is younger than 18. And so those are the groups.
Well, I would nominate Kate Lunan, because she's the only candidate.
No, there's two.
No, for
There's
each
two.
individual.
It should be.
Oh, Emma Houston, right on the
Oh,
bottom
it's
of
on
that.
the back?
Are they from Steven?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, two sides. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see the other side.
Should we, yeah,
Sorry, I withdraw that
Right? 'Cause some people-
motion.
Would you all feel more comfortable, like, just checking which one you want, so we can keep some discretion?
Sure.
Okay, yeah.
That's probably something
Yeah.
else. Just how do we get,
Or would you like for us to just email you once we've had a chance to you want it done right now? That's okay.
We have to vote.
well, how about since you all are here, since you're hard to keep up with,
Okay.
we get yours, we can email the others. I didn't think about that actually, so they can still have a goal.
Yeah.
I don't-
yeah, what was that? Just
If this is a
remember?
binding vote, it has to be in meeting and it has to be in a convened meeting. and
Oh, yeah.
We have to, yeah,
You're right, so we have to vote on it in this meeting.
Yeah.
Yep. There's all these.
Would we,
It has to be an official, so it can be like.
yeah, if you need an official tally, we have to do it in a convened.
It's okay, we'll
public
share.
hearing.
Okay.
yeah,
So like by a show of hands?
No, we
we
can't
have to
see
keep
because
it
it's not-
down.
okay,
We have
yeah.
to keep it down if we wanted to, it's just
Okay.
we can't hold the vote outside of the public meeting.
Right, because it won't be.
Because we're not convened, when we're not.
So are we, using these as ballots?
So you all have to vote.
Oh, okay.
use those as ballots and not collect them. Can you write your name at the
However,
top?
I
Oh,
believe,
no, you don't have to read.
I believe because Everett is in the meeting, he
Yes.
can email you or text you.
Yes, he can.
And I said that it's Voices for Utah Children is the name of the organization.
Did I mess it up?
Everett, did you want to email your recommendations? Did you have time to review the?
Voices for Utah Children.
PDF.
I haven't had any time to review any of these, so I don't know how I can make a good vote.
I sent it through a PDF to him in the.
Yes, did you get the PDF earlier sent from?
Human rights.
From the Human Rights
Today at all.
Commission?
No, I haven't seen that at all today.
Oh, the materials. Let me forward it to you. I'm so sorry, I did send that, but.
It's on the HRCPC.
I hope you're on this, Everett, the email chain. I've asked. Let me send
Yeah,
it
I'm
to
getting
you again.
emails from you, Moana. Okay,
From
but
the
when did you
Human
send it
Rights-
today?
Yes,
I just haven't seen anything today because
I'm gonna send it to you, just the nomination form right now, Everett, so you can
So
have
you
it
can
on the
have
screen
your
reader.
vote.
Sorry about that. I sent it at 5:00, 5:20. Let me send it to you right now, Everett.
It really is. You're welcome to those.
Okay, let me know if you got it, Everett. All right, I will take. So Jason, for protocol, is it, we'll read out here and then you all, or what is that process? We've never done
I don't think it matters.
it's as long as you.
Just as long as the vote is cast
Here,
here.
okay, yeah.
You can tabulate them and you can announce them however you want, but I just don't think we are allowed to vote offline out of.
Not unless we were all remote. like we were during the pandemic.
Okay. Well, that's setting off the.
We're gonna have standards next year.
Standards, we have standards.
One year we tried to do interviews. That was a disaster.
Well, I'm like, you
So
all are
basically,
volunteering.
Jason, you're saying that the people who are on the commission but not here tonight don't vote?
I don't think they can, because if this is a formal vote, then it has to be with a quorum of the
Right.
commissioners present.
Okay.
Yeah, and you're.
Yes.
Okay. Well, this makes our lives easier, because then we will cast, really after you all have cast them, and we'll have the names.
It's basically Robert's rules, I think. What we wrote in the bylaws, we follow.
And Everett, when you're ready, what works best for you to send it over? Or did you, if you don't mind saying, what's the best way?
What is
So,
that? He just has to email it
Everett.
to us.
Oh,
Yeah.
Everett,
Everett.
I'm gonna, can you hear me?
yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna abstain because I can't read this with my technology and talk to you and listen to you at the same time. So I can't do this all at the same time, if that makes sense. Because I have to have a screen reader read this to me at the same time, so I can't focus on that many different voices, if that makes sense.
Yes, Everett, this is Moana.
Yeah.
Can you just, you will still count, you just have to email it to us whenever you're done by, we'll have it through email because you're present.
Okay.
So-
Okay.
It doesn't have to happen right at this moment. Sorry if we,
Okay.
we made it seem like rushing you, but please review it after this meeting and then send it through email.
As long as you're present.
I can do
'Cause you were
that. I can do that.
present. Yes, that will work.
Okay.
Because under the hybrid.
Thank you so
rules-
much.
Because of the hybrid
Sure.
rules, we have a majority in present, so. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Right, I don't see them, I hope, I don't see them being, because it's accessibility, so.
Yeah.
Unless anybody's gonna challenge it, I think we're all good.
I'm not challenging that. I think Everett should have time. Commissioner
Yeah,
Bacon should have time
Commissioner
to
Bacon
review
should
it
have time.
And to be able to vote since he is present today.
Yes. And we have record of that. So we can
Thank
email
you.
the results. Of course, thank you.
No, only Everett, Commissioner Bacon can because he was present in the meeting.
He's
No,
present.
so I'm saying we won't count it till we get.
Yeah.
No, we won't count until we get a submission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm saying we'll let you all know the
Yes.
results later.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
That's what-
we don't have to know the results while we're convened in the meeting, but we have to cast our ballots.
Perfect.
In a convened meeting.
And we're about the community.
I
Well,
know.
because he's remote,
Right,
the
that's true.
rules are slightly
Yeah,
different.
that's true.
That's where you get into the strange hybrid rules where
Yeah.
like for teleconferencing is. I believe that Robert's rules is updated now for video
Yeah.
conferencing as well, but
I almost attended that CLE and then I decided not to. For many reasons. But yes, they
Was that-
updated them.
that was
Like,
a-
took long enough to update them.
And
You just have to
Now,
be very-
now that we're
I
past the
think I was-
pandemic, everybody's back in person, might as well update the Zoom rules.
I've been carrying around like a 9th edition for like 10 years now.
Just letting
I
them,
think
maybe
like
know their roles.
12
that's
or
it.
13 or 14 is significantly different than
Just
9.
reminding everybody what they're doing.
Oh, yes. So the final part is I just want everyone to have a role while we're there at the, whoever can. So I'm just gonna quickly go through this. I just need volunteers for the setup and strike down. Commissioner, and for Commissioner Bacon, who's online. The Human Rights Day is held annually on December 10th. And so it falls on a Saturday this year. And we're gonna be meeting at the Sorensen Unity Center from 6 to 8. And I'll be sending out a calendar invite to hold it now that it's only a month and a half.
That's AM, right?
PM.
You could be there. Still being messy.
6 PM to 8 PM, and then, I'll also be sending, just in the interest of time, I'll send you the, agenda and what the program will look like. Right now, I'm just asking for who can volunteer to set up and strike down, as well as being presenters for the 3 awards. So, any volunteers.
You're asking one person to do
believe-
all of that?
Oh, no.
I'll be happy to
Anybody
be-
would like, there's
I'll
gonna
be happy to be the muscle for setup. and takedown.
I thought that we were going to have the chair be the MC.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
this is
Chief,
just
you-
present the
You
award.
can put me down for setup and takedown.
So I, just throwing this out there, the awards cover 3 categories. I
Yes,
think we should have 3 different individuals
yes,
do that.
yes, that's what I
So-
was thinking.
You're all able to volunteer.
All right, I'll present one of the awards to one of the 3.
Okay, awesome.
So what we did, the one that I think you set up before you came back, the one went really well at Glendale Middle School.
Mhm.
That was great because we got a one-on-one time with the individual, whoever was getting the award. You got to confab with them, go over their bio and ask them what they wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
it worked really well. 'Cause
I like that.
That way I was able to, I gave it to the youth that year and I was able to get to tell me how to pronounce your name and, you know, what do you want me to highlight about you, what are you doing next, kind of thing.
So is Jason volunteering to present to the youth?
I said, I'll present to whoever, but.
What category would you like?
I don't care, well, whoever, yeah, I'll give the award to whoever, but I'm just saying it was a good opportunity to get some one-on-one time with them in advance so that you could personalize it.
I agree.
Okay, I will make sure to.
Yes.
And then 2 more commissioners to give out the other 2 awards.
I can't guarantee anything. I'm gonna try my best.
Okay.
December sucks.
And maybe,
We can also ask the other commissioners, if I get most of these filled, because Esther will be emceeing it, so,
Uh-oh. Do I get a turntable?
yes.
I'm just,
And
Olivia maybe will lead.
Yeah,
The commission.
we'll also put the others to work as
I know
well.
she's
Okay.
coming.
And if
I'm happy to
Everett,
help us too.
sounds good.
I emceed my nephew's wedding out in California a couple weeks ago. and That was stressful. I also officiated.
and then
That's
the,
also stressful. I did that with my cousin.
The officiating was so much easier than being the MC and running everything. I was, by the end of the night, I was,
exhausted.
yeah. I had like-
It's
I
a
had
hard.
like three bites of food to eat and like a beer and a half the entire night, because I was running all over the place.
So the last part would be, if any of you have,
Could I,
Oh, sorry.
pause for a moment? Did you say that you could, would you be okay with, presenting?
Sure.
Oh, okay.
Set up, take
As long as it's
Here.
okay, I'm in my overalls and work clothes, setting up and taking down.
Well, there's a whole two. There's a whole two of us. And I think at the end, the strike down, everybody's just gonna pick up their chair and put it away. so.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
We're putting you to work.
You came in
You
just
just
in time.
started and now we're putting you to work. And then, for organizations such as, I was going to ask as well, Commissioner Bacon, any of the organizations that will be tabling who do good work in the community. We have about 6 tables that will be in the gallery area. And, while we're mingling and eating food, people can go up to them and talk to them and what their organizations represent. If you guys can email me any of the organizations you specifically want to table as the Human Rights Commission, send me those, and then we'll do a formal invite to those organizations to participate in tabling.
And I think.
I
we-
already have 4.
Yeah, we've recommended Equality Utah, the HRC, and the ACLU,
Okay,
right?
Oh, not the Voices of Children Utah, the Cook
Voices-
Center for
Voices
Human
for Utah
Connection.
Children.
It's Voices for Utah Children. The Cook Center for Human Connection.
I have that.
Okay, perfect.
ACLU and Equality Utah, that's 4.
and we
you
should do the
invite me.
IRC.
Yeah, I would think that's-
IRC and
that's good.
HRC, well, HRC and Equality might overlap a bit. so.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
It's the same people.
And then, Everett, do you have one from the,
He's not.
oh, is he on there? Okay. And then we can ask him from the ADC.
Oh, organization.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, organization.
That's 5.
There's only room for 6 tables at the Sorensen
Yeah, I
Center?
thought you said 10 last week. I don't know what you think it was.
I will
We
follow
have
up.
to see, yeah.
I need to go look because the space probably can fit more, but it's really tight.
There's the black box, then there's the hallways.
Yeah, so it would be
So
the
the hallways
gallery
will have
space.
food and like standing tables, right? Isn't the food in the hallway? Yeah.
I think it's 6 to 7 is what they said, but let me go look at it.
Like
If
maybe
they
we can have one more or have a, I don't know, substitution list just in case.
Yeah, let's do that.
I don't know, I just seen events there where you can get a lot more than 6 or 7 tables or.
I know,
Swords
we
and
wanted-
Game Center is huge.
Yeah, it's really good. They said their limit was like, what, 80 people?
Yeah.
Gee, they must be squeezing us into the black box.
Yeah, we're in the black box.
So they're not letting us use any.
Not the multicultural center side. 'cause
Oh,
that's
yeah,
done by
Yeah,
the-
so that place is
Yeah.
huge.
You're thinking of that,
Yeah.
we're only gonna be on the Unity Center side, because that's where the city owns that part. Well, it owns the whole thing, but they only run the Swords and Unity Center side.
Okay, that's
That's-
limiting us a bit.
What is the construction going on the east side of that building?
It's their parking lots being resurfaced. It
They
hasn't
were
been resurfaced.
enhancing.
Oh, no.
That's a bummer.
Okay, I think that's all I have that's pertinent right at this moment.
Oh, what's the entertainment? We didn't,
I've reached out to 3 groups. We were going to have a spoken word piece. We were reaching out to some young folks at the Black Excellence Center at the University of Utah. So doing a spoken word piece. Then I asked the Chinese lion dancers if they would participate too. And then the
Is there
other
enough
group,
room
what was that?
in there? Is there enough room in there?
Yeah, they performed it before
Okay.
too. How we're setting it up too would be, there's like a stage area. And then-
Okay.
And then the final other group, I was gonna ask either Malia dance or, Touch of Polynesia, if they would participate too. So those were the different groups.
Do you mind if I add another artist to your list?
Yeah, and these people haven't confirmed, so.
So, right, they haven't.
We're
Okay.
asking, these are the groups that we asked.
Extra like folkloric as well.
Oh,
That'd
yeah,
be good.
there's, you need their smallest group.
Small.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're small.
just like a kid, or maybe just a couple. Those are always fun.
I will send you
Yeah.
her name,
Yeah.
Noriko.
Mhm.
because I can't think of her name right now. One of my friends is trying to fall asleep. I will send you her name. She's wonderful and she kind of, if she's well, it would be a good,
She a singer or?
she's a singer, she's a
Singer.
singer. She's beautiful. It's got a little beautiful voice, so that'd be good.
it's Taylor Swift, right?
Yes, Taylor Swift.
Tay
Wow.
Yes, we are,
Taylor
we're like
Swift,
this.
We have connections.
Yes, we're like this, we're BFFs.
Saw the news today, she has the top 10,
She does.
top 10 on the Billboard's top 10 list, all 10 of them are her.
Mm.
That's unprecedented by such a ridiculous degree. That puts her in the category of being the greatest entertainer in music.
I
modern
will
music
lie,
history.
I rock out to Taylor Swift sometimes.
All right. I will put those in.
The rest of it's kind of necessary.
You're not feeling 22?
The country stuff doesn't do it. for me.
Okay, so, are we good on this list?
Yeah.
Okay.
All
And,
right.
Michelle, could you make a note for me to email you, the name of the artist when it comes to
Yes.
finally?
So I
Um,
will be,
and then it also sounds like there's still room to add more, so, Commissioner Letter, if you have someone, I see you dancing over there, if you have someone in mind, feel free to also, include them there. Let's see,
I believe on issue 8, we just covered goals and priorities pretty
We did.
thoroughly. We
Yes.
could probably table
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
okay, so we're gonna just table it to the next one, which is, so this is the portion where we just kind of discuss human rights issues that we may be following around the world, here in Salt Lake, but it's just an open discussion for the commissioners to just share.
So for example, I brought up Israel earlier, and we were talking a little bit about the elections. Was it elaborate on that?
Before we get to item 9, on item 8, with respect to subcommittees, are you gonna assign me to a subcommittee, or do you want me to
Whatever
raise
you
my
want.
hand?
Whatever you want to join.
Okay, and when do the
What looks
subcommittees
good to
meet?
Next year.
Depends.
Well, at this point next year.
Whenever works,
Right?
right?
Yes.
Okay.
It shows like,
So it's
please.
kind of monthly,
Please.
quarterly?
Whatever is needed.
So
Like
this
there's
ARP
CDOT, we're
Yes.
meeting pretty frequently for a minute there, and we haven't met since.
We're
So
moving
this
to an
ARPA one,
acronym.
this ARPA one, we're having the first meeting tomorrow with the whole big committee that the city is doing.
That's what we're doing tomorrow.
Yeah, 4 to 6. Gentrification, we are waiting on this thriving in place study to come out before we're going to have a meeting to discuss it. Homelessness, that's the one that I've been on. I missed the last Salt Lake Valley Commission in homelessness meeting because I was traveling. So I've got a subcommittee meeting with them next Thursday, so I have no update to give on that one. But that's really more of a passive one of trying to get up to speed on what's going on with city, county, state, all the different stakeholders to just. And I think that that's in your wheelhouse too. So if you wanted to join that one and take over, more power to you.
I don't know, take over, but I'm happy. I do serve contemporaneously on the board of the 4th Street Clinic.
Okay.
So, I mean,
That's
they deal with homelessness.
Yes, they do. They're awesome.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what.
so-
We got.
And it's something I'm concerned about and interested in, so I'm happy to serve on that committee if you need.
I just
Yes.
see myself.
Okay, I'm just noting it
your
for
resume
myself.
when they
It's
were
okay.
going through the nominations and stuff, so yeah, this one, I am still just passively participating in those meetings, Salt Lake Valley Commission.
So I'm happy to participate. I'm a bit of a slave to my calendar. So if it's not on the calendar, I don't.
Oh, you will
sometimes see
have it. Oh,
Yes.
okay.
So if there's a
So-
meeting coming up or something,
I hear you.
Sign up.
you know, we're a slave to our calendars. So yeah, I'm a slave to
It's
it.
not on
Are you
there.
familiar with the Salt Lake Valley Commission and homelessness? They have
Yes.
they have that monthly meeting with like 500 people
Yeah,
participating.
I know. I think Janita Emerson from the 4th Street Clinic serves on that committee.
So if you want to get signed up for their big meeting, you'll get notifications for when the meetings are coming up. And then they have a portal where you can sign up for different subcommittees on that one through their organization. Your participation on 4th Street Clinic is already the stakeholder that you know what's going on. So I mean, that's what it is. And we come together as a subcommittee as needed to discuss the issues when they come up, but we don't have a strong stance yet because there's just so many stakeholders already working on it. It's more of us staying informed than it is us taking the lead on something.
Okay.
Would you like to be on any other subcommittees or is?
Well, the other one that I'm interested in was this gentrification committee.
That can use people, I think, too, so perfect.
Yeah.
And we'll let you know in more than enough notice.
I mean, it's not that I'm not interested in the others, but,
Yes.
it's just that.
We need people everywhere, so.
Perfect. So David, I went to school with Jenica Emerson.
Pardon?
I went to high school with Jenica Emerson.
Oh, did you really? Oh, yeah, she's
I was like,
wonderful.
"Is that her married name? Santa Cruz growing up."
Oh, really? Yeah, she's great. I love her.
Tell her hi for me.
I will.
And she just moved out of the neighborhood too. She lives one street over. from me.
Oh,
Yeah.
everybody seems like they're moving.
Yeah.
Not me, I love my neighborhood.
Well,
Yeah. Kind of dreams of renovating and then disappeared.
Oh, renovations.
sometimes it's cheaper to move than that.
Yes, it is.
No.
Because with renovating, you can just like pretend that hole in your wall is not there for years. That one hole that you want to put a door in eventually.
I just replaced the kitchen floor and for my insurance company, the water main, it took 4 months
Yeah.
to do my kitchen floor.
That's what I was worried about. So I need some thought.
So it seems like, okay, let's talk about some human rights issues around the world. If there's no comments, we could just move on, but I really think that there are some things that are happening around the world that we should probably just, place on the table and make sure that we're aware. This is one of my favorite parts of the meeting, because I feel like I get to learn from everyone else, because oftentimes we're so stuck in our own personal views of what's happening in the world. But when you get to hear from everyone else, it's like, okay, I wasn't aware of that because I was so focused on this region. So, please, I'll have the floor to.
So two things. The Israeli government collapsed again, and they're going into elections again. And Benjamin Netanyahu is making a run to lead the Israeli government again. And he has a good chance of, despite all of the criminal charges he's facing, he has a good chance of being leader of Israel again. That's not good from a human rights perspective, for a number of reasons that we've discussed in the past. Second, World Cup is going to start in 3 weeks, a little less than 3 weeks. It's being hosted in Qatar. Completely corrupt nominating process that they got. They basically bribed their way into hosting. They used slave labor to build stadiums that didn't exist until they got the hosting duties. FIFA bent over backwards. They changed the World Cup from summer to winter because it's over 120 degrees there, 120 to 140 degrees. So anyway, place completely not appropriate for the World Cup. While they used foreign slave labor to build the stadiums and infrastructure, more than 6,500 people died in construction of those facilities. So
Really? 6,500?
6,500.
Oh, 6,500.
6,500 people died in using modern construction techniques. They still exhausted their virtual slave labor force. Like foreigners who come into the country for a job, they take their passports and then they pay them in like vouchers and things like that. It's just, it's very terrible. So as the world forgets all of those things over the next few weeks and is enjoying international sporting competition, just keep in mind that a whole lot of corruption, bribery, slave labor, and human rights violations went into having this country host the World Cup.
Thank you so much for that, Sharon. Now I'm looking it up, wanting to read and get caught up as well.
Well, I'm concerned about what's going on in Ukraine and also in Russia right now, but it's probably news that everyone is aware of. And, the human rights crisis with respect to the bombardment of residential areas for civilians that are just trying to gather existence in very challenging circumstances. And now with Russia deciding to renege on its commitment to allow grain and other supplies to leave Ukraine for countries that are desperate for food, it's really creating a worldwide humanitarian crisis. Yeah. I don't know whether this commission or the city is involved at all in the resettlement of Ukrainian refugees that probably aren't in this community to a greater or lesser extent. I don't know how many are here, but I'll bet you there are several that have managed to escape and are looking for refuge here.
Yeah.
Believe we do. Through the IRC, they've hosted several families that have been brought into Utah.
We didn't have the deluge that I think we were expecting.
The infrastructure in Western Europe is a lot more friendly towards Ukrainian refugees than they were towards Middle Eastern refugees.
And we can also have requests for partners with nonprofits as well as the state, but the state is in charge of resettlement. So Salt Lake City and the county provide programming that helps like acclimate folks and then assist in with the work that the state does. But we can also bring those partners here for our meetings next year if you all are interested in learning more about the process.
One thing I will say, positive thing I will say about our state government and our governor is that we are very friendly towards refugees.
Yeah.
Refugee populations. It's not one of the, not a problem for us that we welcome refugees with open arms.
Yeah, their program is pretty robust, and we just had a briefing with remember for our subcommittee a couple months ago, the Refugee and New American Subcommittee. So if you all want to learn more about it, we can also schedule them to come next year as well to a larger meeting.
On your point, I believe that the UN and Turkey have both said that they are going to provide not protection, but escort for grain shipments out of Ukraine. Which is throwing the ball back in Russia's court of saying Turkey's one of the few people that were back in Russia. And with the legitimacy and authority of the UN, Russia's claims that it might be trying to smuggle weapons aren't going to hold up. So we'll see how that goes, but I'm optimistic that that's a bridge too far for Putin to burn those bridges, because places like Egypt are waiting. Egypt, Sudan, some of the other neutral countries are still waiting for the shipments to come.
Right,
So we'll see. Bolsonaro lost,
Bolsonaro did lose.
yes,
so that's great.
and he acknowledged his loss, which was the big question today.
He offers a transition.
Well, he said he would adhere to the terms of the Constitution, which basically means that he lost the election. He never came right out and said, I lost.
He did not.
You know, he's
No. And
He's
good
got
luck
his ego involved there,
Right.
but at least he said he'll adhere to the Constitution, which is saying the same thing.
So that's a great win for the human rights of the indigenous people.
Huge
Yeah.
win for the, yes, huge, huge. And I was calling that one, like, a little scared to follow it.
Yeah.
And cringe every time I put on my hat.
Yeah, South America and military coups are
Yeah.
basically, it's just a flip of the coin. Is this the military coup we're backing or not
Not
backing?
back in time.
Well, thank you all for your share, and I hope that as we continue to work tirelessly to make sure that, you know, human rights issues are foremost attention, that we can continue to do our part, do all that we can to affect it. And thank you, city staff, for all that you do to keep us organized.
Thank you, Moana.
And,
Thank you, Dawn.
yes, it's been a great year. It's been a great year. It's busy, but it's been a great year. And I think that the work that you've all done to, one, organize us, which was necessary, and then providing the support that we needed to bring things to the forefront and work effectively was very, very welcome.
Yeah.
It was a very good use of my time. And as I'm sure everyone else, so, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
So on that note, we are going to go ahead and end our meeting. Thank you all. Commissioner Bacon?
I think he just logged off.
Okay, no problem. Well, thank you all for being here and dedicating your time to,
Motion to adjourn.
and yes, could we please have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Any abstaining?
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
There you go.
Right, we can stop the recording now.
So,